Hey, what's going on, guys? Coach Seth here. So today we're going to talk about flexibility and stiffness and kind of just digest which one I think is better for you as an athlete. So basically, is it better to be more flexible or is it better to be more stiff? So if you're new here, my name is Seth Thomas. I'm a strength and conditioning coach for basketball. So if you're interested in more videos just like this one, make sure to subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. And as always, make sure to check the links in the description for free downloads and free programs as well. Alright, so which is better? Is it better to be more flexible or is it better to be more stiff? So whenever I was growing up and whenever I was younger, I always thought the more flexible the better. Even after I went to school and everything, it's always been taught to me that you need flexibility and we need as much flexibility as possible. And that is true in some cases, but not for high intensity athletes. So for athletes, especially basketball players, it is not a good thing to be super flexible. So I'm going to give you a couple reasons and a couple examples of why it is not a good thing and not a good thing for your body as a whole. Obviously we do want to be flexible to a certain extent, but it's really about managing that flexibility. You want to be flexible, but you don't want to overdo it. So one thing I want to point out is the injury risk. So for stiffness, you're going to be more prone to pulled muscles or muscle strains and things like that. Whereas for over flexible, you're going to be more prone for ligament damage and ligament tears. Whenever you're talking about muscle over ligaments, as far as injuries go, you never want to mess with the ligaments. Those are going to be, first off, most of the time they're going to need surgery. So that's one thing, and that's going to set you out even longer. So it's much easier to recover from a muscle injury than it is a ligament injury. So if you're just this ultra flexible guy, you're just exposing your ligaments too much, basically. So there's not enough tightness to help absorb anything. So whenever you do absorb, it's all on the ligaments. So that's kind of like the injury factor of being too flexible. So let's go ahead and talk about the performance side of things. So for the stiff athlete, your explosiveness is actually going to be higher, and that is due to the stretch shortening cycle. And that's just kind of like a fancy term of getting from point A to point B of a movement. So whenever your muscles are loose, what they have to do whenever you go to activate them, they have to tighten up first and then go through the movement. So it's kind of just adding an extra element that's just unnecessary, and that's just basically slowing you down. So whenever you're stiffer, whenever you have a little bit tighter muscles, you don't have to go through that process of activating already. You're already activated, so you just have to worry about powering through that movement. So that's kind of the reason behind a stiff player is going to be more explosive than an over flexible player. So we talked about the injury risk and the performance side of things. Let's throw all that out of the way, and now let's go into the warm-ups. So I was always taught to do static stretching for a warm-up whenever I was playing. I'd done it all the time. I would stretch out like crazy. I'll just do like 5 to 10 minutes of static stretching, you know, reach and hold stretches, and that's just not really like the natural way to do things. So studies have actually shown that static stretching before a workout not only doesn't have any benefits, but it's also been shown to have dramatic decreases in performance. In that case, I would say never ever static stretch before you go into a high intensity workout, or really before any workout. Much better to do a dynamic warm-up that's going to have some type of muscle contraction. That's kind of what you want to go for. You want to have the muscle contraction while you're kind of getting everything fired up and loose at the same time. This is not only for a warm-up, really, you can use this to gain flexibility. Now if you're somebody that's just like ultra stiff, obviously you need to take care of it. It's not good to be like too stiff. You probably need to work on your flexibility in that case, but really what we're talking about here is just being right down the middle. We want to be in the middle. We want to be flexible enough, but not too flexible. So muscle contraction for a warm-up. A couple good examples of this. You could just sit back into a squat, a really deep squat, and kind of just rock back and forward. That's going to really loosen up the groin area and kind of fire up the hips a little bit. I also like to do some lateral lunges. Another good one for glute activation. Once again, it's really all about that hip activation, really getting everything fired up around that hip region. Some knee circles are going to be good for this as well. So those are just some examples of what you can do aside from static stretching. So let's talk about after the workout now, and kind of like the cool down portion of your workout. So is it bad to static stretch after a workout? I'm going to say no. From what I've read and everything with the studies, they don't really show much difference with static stretching after a workout. The other thing is that it doesn't show a difference. It isn't necessarily for the best. Like it's not gonna be much different either way if you do it or not. Me personally, I used to do really extensive stretch sessions after every one of my workouts, and I did this to help with recovery time, because I was just taught the more you stretch after your workout, the better the recovery time is going to be, and you can kind of shave off the recovery time. The studies are kind of just squashing that, really, and they're not really seeing much difference from people that stretch after a workout from people that don't. So when it's all said and done, it's not a bad thing. So if you just feel better after you do it and you kind of like it as being part of your routine, then that's perfectly fine, as long as you're not like pushing through the stretches and just going overboard on them. I think that'll be pretty good, as long as you're not just like killing it with the stretches. So if you want to save some time and you feel like you don't have to go through that stretch routine after your workout, you could just simply do some light walking on a treadmill or something like that, just to kind of cool the body down a little bit and cool your muscle temperatures and everything like that down. So for my final thoughts on this, I would just say, like I said earlier, we want to be right in the middle. We don't want to be too stiff, we don't want to be too flexible. But if I had to choose one of these, it would be stiffness. So just keep that in mind. I was the guy that was, man, I gotta get flexible. I'm too tight right here. I need to work on that. So I spent too much time in that area, I think. So I'm focusing now more on being down the middle rather than too much on the flexibility side. So just try to balance things out and get it down to where you have everything evenly rather than too much focus on one side. So I hope this helps. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions, make sure to put them in the comments below. And also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. And I'll see you guys next time.